which is witchcraft, because the pagans sacrificed children under every green tree. Go and read Jeremiah 10. He says, do not take on the way of the heathen, over and over. Do not bring a tree into your house and deck it with silver and gold. That's the modern day Christmas tree. It's prophetic, which is an idol. And it's a sin that leads to death. That's why sin has increased in these generations, because he said he'd go and visit the children of the fathers that practiced sin, practiced idolatry and hated him. People who practice idolatry, like Christmas and Easter, he says, these people hate me to my face. He's going to visit the third and fourth generation who do these things. That's why we have more pride. That's why we have more suicide. That's why we have more abortions. It's the sin that leads to death. That's why we're seeing it more and more increased. Pride being the LGBT, that's why it's worse. It's God's punishment. We're in the generation of God's wrath because of what the church has done. It's the church's fault. And that's why we have atheists. Because they look at the church and think, well, they're hypocrites breaking the Ten Commandments. Even atheists can see that. Pagans, witches can be like, why are they doing Christmas? We love Christmas because that's the time we can, these Christians are sacrificing their children through the fire. He said in Deuteronomy 18, do not pass your children through the fire when you come into the land by taking on the ways of the heathen. That's what you're doing when you're doing Christmas. And he says in Titus to rebuke the fables sharply. The fables are Christmas, pagan, traditions of men. We are to rebuke sharply because that is true love biblically, to get you sound in the faith so you can hear. Because this is your life that we're talking about, and this is your children's life, which I'm not sure can't remember if I read at the beginning, but I'm going to read the prophecy of what will happen to you women and your children if you do not hearken to this message. It is horrific. Great tribulation, God's judgment on disobedient women, including his believers who say that they know him, but they don't. They disobey him. So Isaiah 13, I will read it so you can hear. This is what God says, right? Hang on. Isaiah 13, 15 to 16. Every one that is found shall be thrust through, and every one that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword. Their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses shall be spoiled, and their wives ravished. So basically, women, your husbands will die by the sword. They will die by the sword, fall by the sword. And you will be raped. That's what ravished means. And your children will be dashed to pieces in front of your eyes. So stop doing Christmas. Obey the Ten Commandments. Keep the Sabbath holy from dawn to dawn on Saturday. No work, no buying, no selling. It's dawn to dawn, not the polluted sunset Friday to sunset Saturday that the Jews took on from the Babylonians, which is the man's traditions. We have plenty of scriptures in the Bible that says about the day dawn, and day begins at dawn. I will leave them, the scriptures below, and I will attach my brother's YouTube videos so you can go and watch in more depth. You can expound on these things. And then once you've repented and started keeping the Ten Commandments, you also need to keep the other covenant of promise. Because there's two covenant of promises, which is mentioned, Paul mentions in Ephesians 2:12. Because if we're not in these two covenants, then we are strangers, aliens from the commonwealth of Israel. We must be grafted back in. We must be grafted into Israel. We're not to be. There's no Gentiles or Christians gate into the kingdom. The only gate is Israel. And if you're not keeping the Holy Covenant of Promise, Ten Commandments, and you're not eating clean, which is the other covenant, the Rainbow Covenant, Noahic Covenant, which is no pork, right? Not to eat any pork. then you're strangers without hope, without God. Okay? So you need to eat clean, so no swine's flesh. He did not make the pig clean. That's an apostate lie. They use Acts 10, but that was about making all people, all men clean, because he wanted the Gentiles to be able to be grafted in. He made the gospel available to the Gentiles. It's spiritual. Just so you know about the swine's flesh, I will read the prophecy of what will happen to people who eat swine's flesh. What Yeshua will do when he returns in his second coming with his 144,000 angels. This is what's going to happen to people who have swine's flesh, also who have shellfish, duck, anything that's unclean in their vessels. Go to Leviticus 11 to learn what is unclean and clean, so what's all right to eat and what's not okay. So Isaiah 66 says, Isaiah 66:15. For behold, the Lord will come with fire and with his chariots like a whirlwind. That's 144,000. To render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many. They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst. What tree? It's like an idol, isn't it? The Christmas tree. When he refers to trees, he is talking about idols, the pagans. It's the modern day Christmas tree, right? Eating swine's flesh. Eating swine's flesh, and this is end days prophecy. And the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together, saith the Lord. So he will destroy people's vessels, bodies, who have swine's flesh in them by fire. They'll be trodden underfoot, destroyed. So stop eating pork, because that's why the Christian church is apostate. The whole church love their bacon. It's disgusting. They are absolutely rebellious.